And welcome everyone to the Sharing Your Engineering Story webinar. This webinar will be presented by Bhumika Sood and me, Niyati Raval. Throughout the presentation, we will give you the tools and skills needed in order to professionally engage your audience and get them interested and invested in your engineering story. By sharing your engineering story, you can inspire others to start thinking about their own stories and even inspire the younger generation to consider an engineering career in the future. We hope everyone will start sharing their own engineering stories after the webinar.
So before we start, we just wanted to let you all know a little bit about us. Our team at Engineers of Tomorrow consists of Erica Lee Garcia, our venture lead, and Rebecca White, our operations manager. And this summer, Niyati and I, Bhumika, had the amazing opportunity of interning with EOT, and we have been working on numerous projects and helping out with various initiatives as the EIR program. Another great way to spread awareness to fulfill our mission to promote engineering is through sharing our engineering story. So I'll start with mine. Let's start at the beginning. My dad's job enabled us to move around from country to country. I started my schooling in America, continued it in India, and then finished my high schooling from Canada. Having lived and studied in different parts of the world, I was exposed to different people, different cultures, but one thing never changed: my interest in STEAM: science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, and the feeling that I wanted to be part of something bigger. And because of this, I thought architecture would be the perfect career choice. I could apply my STEM skills as well as grow my artistic abilities. But I never had that connection or that feeling that I was meant to be doing this. And I realized I was missing one crucial thing: the need to make a change in the world. I wanted to contribute in making as small as an impact possible, and then I began to explore careers which could help me achieve this goal and fulfill my desire to do something. And through this, I realized maybe I should explore the world of engineering. Engineering was one of the careers that stood out to me because of its uniqueness. An engineer could do so many different things that helped a society in so many different ways. And I thought that this is a career I want to go into. I wasn't quite sure about what specific field of engineering I wanted to go into, but I wanted to have different options, and this made me choose management engineering. And a little about what management engineering is: we learn to analyze how organizations operate, and we apply engineering skills to increase their efficiency. And so far, I've completed my first year at University of Waterloo, and I'm passionate to continue developing my skills. What about you, Niani? What's your story?
So I'm going to quickly share my story. When I was younger, I always wanted to do something to help others. I started the Because I'm a Girl Club in my elementary school in grade 6, which is an initiative run by Plan Canada focused on female empowerment. In middle school and high school, I was a part of MeToo, a youth empowerment movement. We held fundraisers and raised awareness on various issues such as child labor and environmental sustainability. Another thing I passionately cared about was the environment and climate change. Throughout my childhood and adult life, I watched numerous documentaries and read various articles on climate change, endangered species, greenhouse gases, and have derived a strong passion towards those issues. Now, fast forwarding to grade 11, I was starting to worry about what I wanted to do in the future. At the time, my brother was a chemical engineering student at Ryerson University, and I saw how hard he had to work. We shared a room, and my brother would leave the light on at 3 a.m. in the morning to finish his assignments and wake up at 6 a.m. just to go to his classes because he had to commute. I asked him for advice on what I should do as an undergraduate program, and he told me to choose accounting because he had friends in accounting and they had more free time and were able to enjoy the uni experience more than he was. I decided at that moment that I wanted to become an accountant and started looking into accounting courses. As I was going through the content, I realized how much I hated accounting and the stuff that they were learning in accounting. And I realized that if I chose a future career in accounting, I know I wouldn't be happy because I wasn't enjoying learning about it. Now I was back to square one and didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up looking into chemical engineering and found out that they create processes to convert raw materials into useful products and are valuable in all industries. I got really intrigued by this. I started doing more research and also realized that through chemical engineering, I could create processes and make them more efficient or more environmentally friendly. I could use my future job to help reduce the impact of climate change and make the world a greener place. When I realized that, I decided to become a chemical engineer right then and there because I knew that I would be happy with the job that can help make the world more environmentally friendly. I could take a passion of mine from when I was younger and make it into a career. And now in 2018, I'm going into second year of chemical engineering at the University of Waterloo.
All right, so the goal of engineering storytelling. First of all, we are not just focused on recruiting kids to become engineers, we want to help them understand STEM and engineering and maybe explore it as a career once they grow up. When we ask little kids what do they want to be when they grow up, they won't say engineer, as most of them won't even properly know what engineering means. Some of them might give you the stereotypical answer and say that they are builders, but we are trying to change and evolve from this. We want them to have exposure and hear what an engineer truly is like and have that in their minds. To hear what engineering is from a different perspective and try to inspire the kids in ways of storytelling. We want to remove some of the stereotypes, such as it is hard or only for boys, etc., and show that from an individual's personal perspective how they chose to become an engineer. And we can accomplish this through the power of storytelling.
So, the benefits of telling your engineering story. By telling your engineering story, you can benefit a variety of people. First of all, by telling your story, you can benefit others. You can send out messages which can be easily retained by your audience as they can emotionally connect with what you're saying. Other people can be engaged and inspired by your stories, and this can help pave way for a new future or can positively impact other people's lives. You can also benefit yourself by telling your engineering story. In order to effectively engage others, you need to self reflect and take a look back onto your reasons for choosing a career in engineering. Through reflection, you can learn new things about yourself and your career. This can open your eyes to a new perspective.
And where you can use your engineering storytelling tool, you can use it during formal outreach engagements, such as your EIR classroom visits, or you can even tell your story at youth workshops. Also, you can do it in your own time at youth volunteer work, such as at Girl Guides, camps, scouts, sports coaching, or you can also do it in your own social network or family circles. And you don't even have to talk about specifically about engineering. It can be anything about your life, career, or you as an individual.
So, how to build your engineering story. Now we're going to move on to the part of the webinar where we will give you a couple of tools and prompts you can use in order to derive your engineering story. It is not necessary to use all of them, but they can help you start planning or start thinking about your own story. Building your story is all about reflecting on your past decisions and seeing how they led you to your current path. Make sure you take some time to look back at your journey and use them as a way to spread your message, whatever the message may be. Using the following prompts, you can build up your message by creating your own personal story and be able to captivate your audience as well.
All right, so the first prompt is identify yourself. You can introduce yourself through saying, for example, I'm Bhumika and I'm an engineer. And this is a very powerful way to start your speech. Own what you are and what you do so that people can relate to what you're saying. And then they will be keen on hearing what you say next. Say something that makes you stand out as an individual, as everyone's story is different and unique from one another. You are even allowed to say or talk about your passions, such as you can say, I'm Bhumika and I'm a car enthusiast, etc. Say something that will spark an interest in the people listening to you. I will start and give you an example. So the prompt is, my name is, and I'm a, and insert descriptor about yourself, something you're proud of. So I'll say, I'm Bhumika and I'm an artist. I am passionate about spreading love and diversity through art. Something I am proud of is my art pieces that I made through grade 9 to 12. All of them have a different theme and message behind them.
So think about your past. The decisions you made in the past, the things that you loved when you were a kid, all have had some sort of an impact on your future self. It may have helped you decide on your profession as well. Thinking about the things that you enjoyed as a child or as a high school student can help you better understand why you chose your current path. So this prompt says, ever since I was little, I have loved, been fascinated by, or wanted to know about. Another one is, one of my favorite memories was, and then you can insert something you did related to that interest. Or in high school, and then something you did, perhaps a club or an activity. So in my case, I would finish the first sentence by saying, ever since I was younger, I've always been fascinated by mankind's impact on the environment, from climate change to endangered species. And this interest was stemmed through being exposed to documentaries on topics such as shark fin soup and more. This made me want to choose a career in the future that would help reduce mankind's impact on the environment. Just by answering that question, I realized I wanted to do something that could solve and challenge some of our world's most daunting issues. Some other questions you can ask yourself are one of my favorite are what are the ones listed here. One of my favorite memories was, or in high school, I. So these questions will allow you to go back and look at the reasons why you chose to be an engineering professional. It can help you connect the dots and help you clearly understand why you chose your profession. These prompts can be used in order to get kids to relate to your journey on a personal level. They may be experiencing similar things or have similar interests to you when you were younger. If they can relate and connect with your experiences, they're more likely to care about your story and will actually listen to what you have to say. It can increase engagement and get them more invested in your story.
Unpack your reasons. So, here you talk about your thought process and sort of unpack the reasons behind you choosing engineering as a profession. For example, talk about what inspired you into choosing it. What factors contributed into you becoming an engineer and how you faced those factors? In what ways did these factors help you, etc.? And another great thing to share and talk about in your story are the things you wished you knew before coming into this profession. Something you discovered after you became an engineer and wanted to share with everyone else. Could be good things and bad, as sharing your personal experience will help you connect with people better and also help them understand engineering better. So, for example, I'll talk about my experience, and the prompt is I chose a profession in engineering because, and you insert your reasons at the time or the original thought process behind the choice. And what I didn't know at the time was, and you insert here, thing you've discovered about since or something that you really enjoy. So I chose engineering as it is one of the careers where you have the chance to do something for the society and have a good impact. I wanted to contribute in making a change in the world in small ways, and engineering was perfect for me as I already had an interest in science, technology, art, and mathematics. I knew I was going to do something in the STEM field as that's where my expertise was, and also my interests. Engineering needs a lot of hard work put into it, and once I finished my first year, I felt like I had accomplished a very important goal in my life, and I was one step closer to becoming an engineer. And I realized that at the end of the day, it is really rewarding to be an engineer.
So share your fears and challenges. You can also share your own personal stories in regards to the fears and challenges you faced throughout your journey. So in order to answer the prompt, so the prompt says, I used to worry that, but now I have realized slash learned that, and you can insert the thing that you have learned that doesn't make that old worry or fear such a big deal anymore. So, for example, in my case, I was worried about the workload and I was scared that I wouldn't be able to handle the workload associated with engineering and would fail out. But I realized that if I put in hard work and if I'm working towards a goal that I'm passionate about, I would be able to handle the assignments and work because I would be motivated to do them. I realized if I'm doing something I enjoy and something that will help me accomplish my future goals, then I would work my hardest, and no matter what the outcome is, I would know that I tried to achieve my goals. And that was more important to me than the thought of failing. As a result, I let go of my fear of failing and proceeded to pursue an engineering degree. Many of the fears and challenges you face throughout your career may be challenges that current students are facing, or challenges that they may face in the future. This is a great way to get them to relate to your story and can help emphasize your message. In my case, the message that I was trying to share was not to let the fear of failure drive you away from engineering fields or STEM fields in general. When you try to provide an example of a challenge you face, make sure you find ways to incorporate a positive ending to it. So if you faced a challenge, make sure you tell your audience what you did to overcome that challenge and how it has shaped the person you are today.
Talk about the change you want to see. So the prompt is I dream about, insert, thing you'd like to do one day related to your engineering background or education in some way. So here you can either say general things such as I'd like to see the world without poverty or without discrimination, etc., and then relate it to your profession. So for example, I would say, once I'm an engineer, I would like to see more girls in the engineering field. I want to see diversity, more inclusiveness, and I want everyone to have this sense of equality that they can be anything they want in life. Before coming to Canada, I did my schooling till grade 10 in India. I was exposed to this culture that since you are a girl, you have to be a doctor, and since you are a boy, you have to be an engineer. And this mentality is still prevalent to this day, and one day I'd like to see this change. Everyone should have a choice and not be influenced by society in unequal ways. Even in university in Canada, when someone asks you as a girl and tries to guess your engineering background, they say chemical, biomedical, or nanotechnology, which is also very stereotypical. To this day, we have this understanding that girls don't go into mechanical or computer or electrical engineering, and I want to see this change. I want everyone to feel like they can be whatever they want.
So, talk about your supports. Through this prompt, you can talk about how people in your lives have impacted your decision or have supported your decision to join the engineering profession. Luckily for me, I had a lot of different support systems and people who believed in me through my engineering journey. I'm Indian, more specifically from Gujarat, and in India, there are societal norms where women are supposed to get married at a young age and have children and provide for their husbands. I personally know people in India who want their daughters to get married as soon as possible. They're willing to provide money to pay for their son's education, but when it comes to their daughters, they don't care as much. So, the women or girls getting an education is considered less important when compared to men in some parts of India. So my parents immigrated to Canada when I was 3 or 4, and my dad, who was an engineer in India, had to restudy to work as an engineer in Canada. He would work at a gas station and also study at the same time for his exams, and my mom would work at McDonald's to provide for my family. They struggled here in Canada just so my brother and I could live in a country where I could dream of becoming whatever I wanted and do whatever I want. I was able to choose engineering as my future path because my parents told me I could do whatever I wanted in the future. They were willing to support my future no matter what it pertained. I always wonder if I was still in India, would society's norms have affected my education, my future? Would I have been married by now? I'm not sure, but I'm glad I don't have to worry about those issues, and it's all because of the support of my parents and their love. Without their constant support, I would have not been able to choose engineering as a profession, and I will always appreciate how they went against the societal norms in India and wanted my brother and I to equally have their support in regards to education. They're my biggest supporters. Another major supporter in my life was my high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Lozan. I was pretty shy in high school and I wasn't really outgoing, but he was always encouraging and he believed in my potential as a student. He was a great chemistry teacher and was always challenging us through tests and quizzes. I learned a lot from his class and not just about engineering. Even though he may not know this, I gained a lot of confidence in myself through chemistry classes as I started to believe that I was smart enough to challenge engineering and it influenced my decision. So you can talk about anyone who aided in your own personal journey through this prompt. So the prompt, specifically the example that we give, is what I really love is, and then you can insert thing that you're passionate about. And at your school, I find insert way that the school supports or is aligned with what you're passionate about or supports you to be your best so you can do the thing that you love. You can also just talk about people that have supported you as I just did. Also, through the EIR program, you can become a supporter in someone else's journey, just as my high school teacher was a supporter in mine.
The next prompt is offer advice. The prompt is my advice to you is, and insert here. This can be a reiteration of something you've said earlier in your speech. What is something you learned that you now share with these high school students as you would to a friend? So, such as you can say that the general things, study really hard, be passionate about what you want to do, put your mind and soul into it, be courageous and take risks. And here you can also give valuable tips and challenge the misconceptions everyone has regarding engineering. You can tell everyone to have an open mind before going into engineering, and you can share your personal tips that you acquired through your years of engineering at university. You can tell them what you did to get the most out of your engineering experience and tell them how you changed and evolved as a person from the beginning of when you were becoming an engineer to now. So my advice to you is, as a university student, my advice will be for the upcoming engineering first years. Do not be scared of it. When I was in high school, upper years who already graduated high school would tell us stories of how a Waterloo student had to go in the morning, had 8:30 a.m. classes, had no social life, and had no time to sleep, etc., and had to put in hours and hours of studying. But here is my advice. It is all worth it at the end. Through all those morning classes, all those all nighters, and last minute assignments, you realize that you are part of a family and everyone around you is going through the same journey and is there to support you. You see that if you put in the hard work, it will make you see the potential you have in yourself.
So now we're going to move on to some storytelling tips. So really look into your past and don't always and you don't always know what you're looking for until you find it. The dots will connect backwards. Another thing is we want you to lead with your human story, not your credentials. Kids won't care about your credentials. They want to be able to connect with you, and that's more important than your credentials. The goal is to make yourself impressive. The goal is not to make yourself impressive, sorry. It's to make you relatable and accessible. This also helps break down stereotypes surrounding STEM by showing that anyone can be a STEM professional, or in this case, an engineer. Also, make sure you know your audience. Talk about yourself from when you were younger or their age. Give examples and use language that they can relate to. So, if you're in a class of elementary school kids, try to look back at a time when you were in elementary school and what sort of things you did in elementary school that might have helped you become an engineer right now. So, make sure you think about that.
So, the do's and don'ts of storytelling. First of all, you should tell your story with enthusiasm and emotion. Rehearse your story many times before telling it and be descriptive. Also, keep it short and sweet. Try to keep it between 3 to 5 minutes. And what you shouldn't do is tell your story as if it's a business presentation. And don't tell details or plot lines that don't progress the story.
So, some more do's and don'ts. So don't say I'm a chemical engineer if you're a chemical engineer. I remember telling this one my neighbor, he was in grade two, I believe, that I'm studying chemical engineering, and he told me, "Oh, do you mix chemicals?" So if you say you're a chemical engineer, they're not going to fully understand what you do. So instead, do say things like I create things like medications, food and drink, paper, clothes through the application of chemistry, physics, math, and biology.
Also, here are some further resources that you can check out. We have a Telling Your Story Erin Rogers NEM webinar. We have the Moth Radio Hour and educational resources. Also, be sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, and also you can check out Engineers of Tomorrow's YouTube channel where we will be uploading this webinar as well, and the introduction to the EIR program for teachers and EIRs has already been uploaded. Also, tune in for the next webinar, which is on July 25th, next week, Wednesday, which is the Inclusive Messaging and Diversity webinar.
All right. So thank you for attending. Make sure to connect with us on social media. Also, if you have any questions, we're here to answer them. So just use the chat box to ask them. And thank you for attending.